going to go over solutions for our DMA math problems. So I'm going to start off with DMA week 30, day 4. It's Thursday, so we're one day away from our weekend. Let's get started. I'm going to start with our fraction problem. So if I zoom in here, it lets me know that I'm going to divide the rectangle, the one-hole rectangle, into halves and label each half with an appropriate fraction. That means a unit fraction. And then we're going to shade in one of the halves because the numerator tells us how many parts of the fraction we need to either label or how many parts we're actually counting. Okay? So the denominator tells me how many parts to partition the whole rectangle into. So in this case, I'm going to partition it into 2 parts. I can go down the middle, up and down, or I can go down the middle, side to side. Now, again, remember that they have to be partitioned equally. So we want to make it as equal as possible when we're talking about fractions. So today, I'm just going to go down the middle, and I'm going to partition it down the middle, and I'm going to label with the appropriate fraction. So this is one of the 2 pieces, and this is also one of the 2 pieces, which we would call half. Now, it asks me to shade in one of the halves, so it doesn't matter if you shade in the top or the bottom, of course. And so that will complete the first problem for our fraction problem. When we go to our next fraction problem down in the bottom left corner tells us that they want to know how many fourths there are. So if you notice here, this is one whole rectangle, and this is also one whole rectangle. So if we label, and we've talked about labeling the unit parts, if we label each one of these unit parts in our fraction, this is 1/4, this is a 1/4 piece, 1/4, 1/4, and then I continue on. This is still one whole, so remember, we're not counting this as 8 pieces, we're counting each one of these as a fourth of a whole. So this is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. So this is 4 of the fourths, and this whole rectangle is 4 of the fourths. So now when I count how many fourths I have, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 fourths. And in this case, that's called an improper fraction because you have more pieces than your denominator. But in this particular case, we are going to say this is 8 fourths, and we know that 8 fourths is equal to the whole number 2. Now, if I wanted to take this idea and place it on a number line, and we've talked about taking fractions and placing them on a number line before. Remember, you had 2 whole rectangles. We took each of the whole rectangles and we partitioned them into 4 equal pieces. So notice I started in the half mark. This whole, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it into half first, and then I'm going to take each half and partition it into 2 more parts to make fourths. Now I can label these 1/4, 2/4, which we also know is half, 3/4, 4/4, which is also 1 whole, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, and finally we have 8/4, which is 2 whole. Now we also would know that this is also considered 1½ on a number line or a ruler. So that's how we would partition and show and model this on a number line. Okay, so now let's take it back to our problems here where it talks about complete the related multiplication facts. So I know that I have my groups here in my division problem. So I have a dividend. I'm dividing it by the divisor, which in multiplication, those are the groups. And we want to know how many are in each group. We're missing a factor. So to find the missing factor using division, we are going to use our understanding of what is 32 divided by 8. So 32 divided by 8 is 4. So we know that we have 4 objects in each group. So we've had 8 groups of 4. Same thing for 40 divided by 5. 40 divided by 5, we have our dividend, which is 40. We're putting it into 5 equal groups, so that's our divisor. And our divisor tells us how many groups we have in our multiplication problem. So 5 times what equals 40. So we know that if we take the 40 divided by 5, we have 8 in each group. So that is our missing factor in our multiplication sentence. Same for 36 divided by 6. 6 times blank equals 36. So if I know my multiplication facts, or if I don't know my multiplication facts, I can count by 6s. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. So if I have up to 36, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 6 to make 36. So my missing factor is 6. Now we're going to go back up to our word problem. And I always like to leave our word problems for last so that we can show using modeling on a scratch sheet of paper here. And I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to zoom out. So our problem says the park has 9 swing sets. Each swing set has 6 swings. How many swings are at the park in all? So if you had a bunch of kids running around and they needed all to have a swing, we would need to know, well, how many kids are going to actually be able to swing on the swing sets? So 9 swing sets, those are your groups. That's important information. There's 6 swings for each set. And we want to answer the question is, how many swings in all? So we could say swings total in all. So swings in all would be blank, because, right? So we take and model this. So we know that there are 9 swing sets, or 9 groups. So I'm going to move this over. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We started off at the beginning of the year putting dots or tally marks, but now we've moved on from that. We don't need to do that anymore. So we can just know that this is 6. 6 more makes 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, and 54. Oh, excuse me. So if I have 9 sets and each set has 6 swings each, that's our clue word, each, then we would want to know how many total swings, and that would give us our 54 swings. So if we go back to writing this in a explanation, we can say there will be, or there are, 54 swings because, or since, nine sets and 6 swings for each set will give us 54 total swings, which is 9 groups of 4, or excuse me, 9 groups of 6. So those are our problems for today. Double check your bars and your graphs. I also forgot to mention here that I need to probably put my total here in my bar diagram. So hope you had a good day today, and we will see you again on Monday. Have a good weekend.